Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we have to talk about elementary OS, and it is beginning its death march. Yeah. Well, there was last year around, I don't know, was it around this time last year? Right around this time-ish or so last year. I did this video, Elementary OS Implosion. Elementary OS is in trouble. And this video here did a lot of the background over some of the drama around the Elementary OS team. And really what happened is I describe in good detail in the video a combination of the down market and a few little small disputes here and there caused Elementary OS to not have as much money, and then most of the people left, leaving the entire project under the hands of one person. And then that one person came out as being trans and actually commented and quoted on Twitter, "My transformation to being a transgender gay atheist commie is complete." And I argued in this video here that, it doesn't fundamentally make a difference what the politics are of the people behind the distro. What makes the bigger difference is the distro itself and what it's doing. And I stand by that. The problem we have is that Elementary OS has started to move down some pretty bad paths, and today announced, or maybe it was late last night, announced that it is time to say goodbye to Twitter. "We can't in good conscience be part of a social network that promotes far-right authoritarian politics that go against everything we stand for. Please subscribe to our blog's RSS feed or follow us on Mastodon." All right, so we'll go ahead and break down what's going on here and why I think that this is the death march for Elementary OS. First and foremost, the distribution itself has never been my cup of tea. I have given it as fair shake as we possibly can, but it has a lot of things going against it. As I argued in that first video I showed, on the personal front, it doesn't jive the way I like to work. It basically is an Apple clone. They say they're not an Apple clone, but it's very clear they are an Apple clone. Now, if you really like Apple, you'll probably really like Elementary OS and the Pantheon desktop and all it's trying to do. That in and of itself is a very subjective thing. I cannot objectively say Elementary OS sucks because of that, because it's just a matter of personal workflow. But on the technical level, Elementary OS does objectively suck. And the reason is, as I have illustrated many times, they are trying to do this curated app model where they have this unified little app store that has their curated apps that are considered perfectly safe and works with the system. And then there's all of the other stuff out there. The problem is their curated apps has nothing other than a few basic, we have a music player, we have a calendar. We don't even have a curated Office software suite. We don't have a curated image editor. We don't have anything that is highly functional. And what they've done in their store is every single app, like things like GIMP and LibreOffice, things with a large track record of being used, they put this warning on them. This is from Elementary OS 6, but in my 7 tests, they haven't changed it. You can't really see this here. If you watch this video, I'll have it linked. You can see that. It says install the untrusted app VLC. This app is provided by a third party. Its developer has not been known to us. And so they basically says, my apologies, I can't even exactly read it in fine detail. But it basically says this hasn't been curated by us, and this is a potentially unsafe app that might potentially harvest your data. It puts this warning on GIMP, on LibreOffice, on VLC, on everything that is not an officially EOS curated application. Meaning it will instill mistrust in good applications, and it doesn't make a distinction between this and, for example, Ubuntu's third-party Chinese-created snap package of simple screen recorder. Really, that's kind of the issue. Additionally, they do not make it easy to install things like deb packages or extra repos, meaning the system becomes very locked down. And that raises itself an issue of the technical perspective. So while Elementary OS came out with a lot of buzz and a lot of people stood behind it and a lot of people sat down and said, I don't know, guys, I want this to work. I want all this to work. And so what they did is they gave it a chance, and they gave it a chance, and I gave it a lot of chances, and I pointed out a lot of the technical issues with it that were, I was clear what was subjective, what was objective, for sure. The problem is they just wanted to go straight down. Now, as I argued in my other video there, the implosion of Elementary OS, that I didn't really care what the politics or the life of the person behind it. You could go sleep with hippos for all I care. I really don't care until you try and force that upon me. That's fine. And that raises the question. So in the tweet, is Twitter really pushing authoritarian politics? No. Actually, all Twitter is saying is, you know what? We just want people to be able to have a public space on the internet. And obviously, if something is a violation of the law, that needs to come down. And Twitter will do that. In fact, before Elon Musk took over, I'm not sure if you were aware of it, but CSAM was a huge problem. There was a lawsuit of a person saying, that is my CSAM stuff and it is illegal and it is not consented to be there. And the parents had to sue Twitter and they're like, well, it doesn't violate our community guidelines. And Elon Musk cleared all of that stuff off in like week 1. Okay, the illegal stuff comes down. The problem is, as Danielle says in the Twitter feed there, my transformation to being a commie is complete. And that's the reality is the communists do not want people to have free expression. So where did all this come from? All this came from, and they linked this, we'll see this down here, this article from The Atlantic. So this was archived just a couple days ago. It caused references to the DeSantis stuff, which is coming out later on today on Twitter. Of course, Tucker Carlson is moving on to Twitter. Does this make it a right-wing network? No, it's just a place that you're not being banned for talking about things that we can't talk about on the tubies that are objective fact. I'm not going to give any examples because this is on the tubies. Now, I will remind you, though, this is from The Atlantic. The Atlantic is about as far left-wing rag as you can get. They are not shy about it. This appears to be more of an opinion piece than anything else by the same journalistic group that brought us such classic articles as George's Experiment in Human Sacrifice. What? Yeah, why are they experimenting in human sacrifice? Because Georgia looked at all of the koofy data and says, maybe shutting down society is not good for society. And so the Atlantic released this article saying Georgia's experiment in human sacrifice because they were lifting lockdown mandates. That's the organization that Elementary OS is going to learn from when they're talking about Twitter being a right-wing play. Talk about being in an echo chamber. Okay, like right now, the book I'm reading, because I try and read books all the time, the book I'm reading right now is by a Buddhist PETA board director, okay? It is as far off from my personal beliefs as you can possibly imagine, but at least I'm reading it to get some different perspective, okay? And that's the type of stuff that we see is these people in these echo chambers don't want to get out of the echo chambers. Now, if this is Danielle's personal belief, fine, Danielle, keep your personal Twitter feed off. The problem is now Elementary OS has become an extension and is now entering the political sphere. And this is the start of the death march. So let's just dig through a little bit of the article. Of course, Twitter has long been described, even by most ardent users, as a hell site. Yeah, that has a lot more to do. Doesn't have a lot to do with it had a lot to do with the politics. It had a lot to do with the fact that you couldn't even stand on biological fact. I'm a biologist. You couldn't stand on biological fact on Twitter without getting deplatformed. Okay. And it had a lot of other things. And of course, Elon Musk kicked a lot out. Did he push it far right? No. All he simply said is people are allowed to have legal speech on this platform. That's all it is. But of course, the commies don't like that. And since Danielle is a self-professed commie, according to the Twitter feed, we're not going to comment one way or the other on that. So Twitter has evolved into a platform that is indistinguishable from the wastelands of alternative social media sites as True Social and Particle. Okay, so don't tell me that is objective journalism. This is an opinion piece. An opinion piece from a far left guy at a far left journalist group, and you want to nuke a distro over that. And they talk here about in December, I argued if we were to judge Musk strictly by his actions on Twitter's owner, it is accurate to call him a far-right activist. Why? I didn't actually read this article. I probably should have. But in this article, what he does here is he a far-right activist. All he's doing is simply allowing people to speak legal truth without fear of being deplatformed. Okay? But the problem is that this guy's mindset will not allow a person to have such mindsets. Anything that goes against their personal narrative is extremism and therefore has to go. That's Marxism. That's exactly what they want to do. Okay, so that's what's going on here. This article will be linked down below, so I'm not going to take the time to go on it here because this is about elementary OS, not about the politics of Twitter, which, frankly, I don't care about. By the way, if you are an extremist, you want to find me on Twitter, I'm over there. If you are a leftist, you want to find me on Mastodon, I'm over there as well. You see, you can be on multiple platforms at the same time. I don't really care. Now, let's talk about one more thing in here. They says, in good conscience, we can't be part of a social network that promotes politics that go against everything we stand for. Let me take out this section here and say, in good conscience, is it good for an organization to stand against something that goes against what they stand for? Yes. This is why the one social network you won't find me on is Meta. Anything owned by Meta, Facebook, Instagram, anything owned by Meta, anything owned by TikTok, I will have nothing to do with it. I don't care if it would be a benefit to me. I don't care. So I can completely understand. In fact, there was a time I nuked my whole library channel, not over politics. I don't really care about the politics. It was how they were directly pushing inappropriate material directly to my inbox without me subscribing and then telling me if I have a problem with it, click the link in the sexually explicit unsolicited email. So I nuked the whole channel over it, but the problem is that something I have that people on this other side do not seem to have is a level of grace, which is why you will find me on Library Today. Because I did that, I made a public stink about it, they looked at this and they said, good point. And they put in some changes, they fixed the problem, and they contact me back a year later and says, hey, we know we messed up and we put in XYZ changes, what'd you think about coming back? I looked everything over, I verified their changes, and I said, sure, sounds great. And that's why I'm over there to this day. So, but I understand if it's so far against everything you stand for, I can completely understand not wanting to be in it, which is why I'm not in any way associated and will never be associated with anything owned by Meta, anything owned by TikTok. All right, so I can understand that. They do provide the link to the Mastodon link, so if you want to follow Elementary on Mastodon, if you think it's a great project and you don't care if they left Twitter, go ahead and follow them on Mastodon. But the reason I call this Elementary's beginning its death march is because now they are jumping into a political sphere on a distro that was already fragmented and small. And from what I'm seeing on the Twitter feed here, and hopefully we can get to it before it gives me a pop-up. If not, I'll go and use my other logged in account and we'll do it on, on the screen share instead. But let's go ahead and see as far as we can get. This person wants an email subscription for blog posts. Okay, that's good. Fair point. So if you sign up on GitHub and sponsor $1 a month, you'll send you a monthly update email. Okay, so they have that in place. You can't get it for free. You got to pay for it, but okay, that's their choice. Okay, so this guy's honest question. What is this? What situations do you think they've promoted it? Just want to understand. So that is the article that we looked at by, the same group that talks about Georgia experimenting in human sacrifice. So now we get into the feeds that makes me say, yeah, Elementary OS has just begun its death march. So here's what we have. Hiding under a rock isn't good for your distribution. Running away from those you disagree with will breed segregation and does nothing good for society. In many respects, leaving Twitter is only the cowardly, echo chambery thing to do. And I completely agree. Let me see if I can pull in on some of these comments. No, if you want to have dinner with fascists, that's your business. If you want to have dinner with fascists, you become a fascist. Don't like it, don't have dinner with them. Mr. Blue Checkmark. Okay. Those you disagree with is an interesting way of saying mid-1940s German soldiers. All right. Go the way of Macedon. This isn't an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. And that'd be better. If they want to just stop posting on Twitter, that'd probably be better for them. Nobody would probably notice. I've reposted several Elementary OS things as they push out new updates. It's not my favorite distribution, but it's a Linux distribution, and I push out when they have updates. So this is just to update, a little bit more, as I thought this was interesting enough. When all the representatives of Linux distributions go to Mastodon and how will the general public find Linux news and know about you? This is another step to keep people away from Linux. Unfortunately, a step taken by many, and you're not the first. And that's the argument that says I should be on Facebook. I just can't do it, guys. I just can't do it. Time to find a different distro then. Consider your distro unrecommended. Cringe, noob, bye. Stop trying to make Mastodon happen. It won't happen. I mean, when you pick your logo off of something that's extinct, it's not a reason. Never. Okay. That's a foreign language, so I'm not going to say that. You also stand for some politics on Twitter also, but Twitter is wrong, but you are right. Okay. Imagine stay in politics. Distros should be neutral. Yeah, and that's my basic take. I actually think, if I remember correctly, I think that the Clem at Linux Mint, I think he has political views opposite of mine, but he doesn't blast it from the street tops. That's the thing. And I think he does. I don't know for sure. I'm not really clear, and I don't generally seek out to find out what people's political affiliations are necessarily. But when you make it so upfront, and it's the first thing on my Twitter feed when I log in, that is a problematic thing. What distribution will you advise instead of Elementary OS? This guy says Fedora. Okay, 2 upvotes for Fedora. All right. Which I guess if you're going from Elementary OS, I think Fedora is a good logical choice. Here's a yikes. Putting on the clown stuff. It's a pity to see this GNU Linux distribution taking actions in ideological currents. It's getting tiresome everywhere, polemic. I considered Elementary as an option, even recommended it, but bye-bye now. Reply show much of the community doesn't even understand the open source value. They come for the software or because I hate Microsoft, yet ignoring the inherently political stand that is open source, free software, foundation, collectivism is against corporate capitalist authoritarianism. This guy says he won't be missed. I've been with EOS since the beginning. I reported bugs, added translations, but time to say goodbye. Not because of Twitter. That's just the final icing on the cake, but your distro is already dead. No deadline for new releases, lingering bugs, playing with colors, and he's going back to Ubuntu. No, don't go back to Ubuntu. Find a better distro. Go to Fedora. Good riddance. Okay, Hale makes his point. Operating system based on Ubuntu has political views, or is it the devs behind the distro? All opinions aside. I wish you well in your endeavors. Also, you directly to a dev tool that helps one read large amounts of source code, please. All right, so this is a good one. So operating system based on the Ubuntu having political views, or is it the devs behind the distro? See, the devs behind the distro can have political views. I don't care. It's when you come in and join the public political debate that may cause part of the issue. Some people might accuse me of joining the political debate. I consider myself standing on the sidelines, occasionally throwing a shout. Okay, I'm equally offended by both of them, and I equally offend both of them. It's just one group tends to give me a little bit more to talk about, more often than not. And if your only thing is, these allowed to talk, that's a concerning thing. So it doesn't matter what the politics are. What matters is, what are you doing with it? If Danielle wants to leave Twitter because of this, that is an amazing thing. But if Elementary OS does nothing but keep the Twitter account around just to say, hey, we've dropped a new package dump. Hey, we've dropped a new package dump. It's the same thing I do, really. I'm not really super engaged on Twitter, but I just post out when a new video's out. I don't take a lot of other stances one way or the other. Well done and sticking around here to funnel people to the Fediverse and the Deciverse. However, I much appreciate and respect your stance. Following you on Mastodon, I'm not quite sure. Did you say you keeping it or not? I'm not sure. Really disappointed in this infantile decision. Instead of virtue signaling on social media, focus on product and putting your effort into allowing paying customers a comfortable way to upgrade from 6 to 7. This is so cringe, lame, no need to advertise, just leave. But had it been the left extremism, it would have been fine. Makes sense you want to live in your woke echo chamber. Good riddance. Funny that an open source project does not believe in free speech. I think it's time to say goodbye to Elementary. I can't in good conscience use a project that does not believe in free speech. Very interesting. Mastodon isn't willing to be long-term. Hope to see you on Blue Sky after it opens. Okay. Mr. Robot is playing the world's smallest violin. Oh, no. Anyway. So you can kind of see here that Elementary OS, by taking such a stand, by making it a big political thing, by pouting about it, especially based on an article that's clearly an opinion piece from a left-wing organization that also talks about the experiments in human sacrifices in Georgia because they decided not to kill their entire economy. All right, that's a really bad decision for your distribution. And when you're starting to do that kind of stuff, it announces, yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to go march off to my doom at this point in time. So Elementary OS, I've given it the best shake I could. I'll probably still continue to do some distro reviews of it when it pops one out, possibly, if I have time. But the reality is it's not a good distro on a technical level. It's not one I personally like on a subjective level, and they seem to be now paying more attention to the politics of the world rather than trying to make a good distribution. So it will put Bud Light in hand and march its way right on down to the death march, and it is gone, I guess. So let me know your thoughts. Does this make you want to try Elementary OS more or less? Is this something that you really care about? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.